and welcome to another episode of Spotlight Sessions. My name is Ilan Fisher, the host, and today I'm really excited to be chatting to Sarah Harriman, who's Executive Director of 99 Balloons. How's it going, Sarah?
Hi, it's great to be here. Thanks for having me.
It's my pleasure, and it's great to see you smiley and very energetic this morning.
Thank you.
Um, so, Sarah, just to get started, do you want to kind of explain a little bit about yourself and your organization and kind of really the story of 99 Balloons?
Sure. I am the executive director at 99 Balloons, and my involvement started when my husband and my kids and I began volunteering at what we call Recess. It's a monthly respite event that 99 Balloons puts on for families affected by disability. So we started as volunteers and fell in love with the families. And so that's what led to my eventual involvement in the organization and now leading in the role that I do. But I absolutely love the work that we do. Everything we do is about changing the story of disability, and we do that by creating turnkey and scalable ministry and community models, and they basically create relationships with families and adults experiencing disability. Everything we do is about relationships because we're working hard to fight isolation that our families and friends experience.
And Sarah, how did you get involved in 99 Balloons in the first place?
Yeah, we were invited to be a part of Recess, which is our respite event. And so my husband and I got paired with a child with disability, and our kids got to play along, and we just absolutely fell in love with the kids and the families that we were involved with. And that led to more and more involvement, even with adults, and now some of those adults are our dear friends.
Amazing to hear that kind of that story and the full circle element of it. And Sarah, a little bit about yourself. What were you doing prior to 99 Balloons?
I'm sorry, could you repeat that?
And what were you doing prior to 99 Balloons in
Sure.
kind of your personal and professional career?
So I'll admit it's been pretty varied. I've been in the nonprofit space for a little over 20 years, and it's been in everything from communications and marketing to just right before this, I was a CFO for a church who had several nonprofits under its umbrella. So I've done many different things from communications to finance to even some database work. So it's been pretty varied, but it's fun to see how it's all been tied together to be used here at 99 Balloons.
And at 99 Balloons, you're coming into contact with a lot of different people and a lot of different experiences. Are there any kind of particular stories that stand out as something that people can learn from or kind of understand more about disability from?
Sure. I think one of our favorite stories here is we have these recess sites, our respite model, across the U.S. and Canada and Australia. And while our goal is to provide respite for these parents, to provide a place for these kids with disability to be celebrated, honestly, the goal is to create relationships. And so one of our favorite stories is one of our sites. Just a few hours from here, they learned that one of their kids couldn't get to recess because of vehicle issues. They just didn't have an accessible vehicle. So this site took it upon themselves to raise the money so that this family could have a vehicle that the child could use. And it's just I love how it demonstrates that when you just have a few interactions, that it creates these relationships and that you truly do become like family. And you see how important it is for our families and kids not to be isolated. And you'll do everything you can to help.
And I love that story. And Sarah, another thing that I'm really interested and curious to understand is you've been in 99 Balloons how long now?
I've been there 3 years.
Amazing. And in terms of your kind of definition of accessibility, has that changed a lot or has that developed, or kind of talk me through a little bit of that journey as well?
Sure. That's a great question. I feel like I maybe didn't have a big enough picture of what accessibility should look like when I started. At first glance, it just seems like, well, everything should be accessible to everybody. But I think it's really much deeper than that. It's not just accessibility to information, but it's having experiences and connections, and things like that available to everybody in just a similar and equitable manner. I don't think it should be made more difficult. I think it should be just as easy for anyone, regardless of ability, to be able to access this information or these experiences or these people.
Wow, I really like that answer, and I like that you said it's deeper than what a lot of things. Because at the end of the day, it does. The more I delve into it, it does feel like a mindset. It's sort of really
Yes.
just being really inclusive. And another thing that I'm really curious about is, with your experiences with people with disabilities, what are some of the things that maybe wider society gets wrong about disability or can learn better?
While this seems discouraging to say, something I always want to share to people at first is just think about us. I think a lot of times businesses and things like that, we aren't always on the front of their minds when they are creating spaces or they're adding to their workforce. So that would be my first piece of advice. Just think of us, because I think when you do begin to include people with disability, I think your mindset changes about it. And again, I think when you have these relationships form, these beautiful relationships start and create community. And then it's not so hard to think, how can we create spaces that are inclusive? Because these people are your friends and your coworkers now. So you're going to be considering it more often. So honestly, I just want people to start by thinking about us and including us.
That's such an important message, because I think once somebody does understand or have that experience, then the penny almost drops. But until then, it can be a bit of a challenge and a journey. And what's kind of your advice, still talking about the business community, for how they can start that journey or how they can get more involved?
Sure. I think it's always helpful not to just help a community, but to include a community when you're creating solutions. So obviously, in your focus groups or whatever, please include people with disabilities. And disability isn't a monolith. It looks a variety of ways. So you need to include a diversity of people there. And I think when you do that, my next thought would be to say, don't be afraid. It's sometimes tricky in this space, I know, around language and things like that. And we're all afraid of saying the wrong thing or doing the wrong thing. But honestly, I think if you will begin with including people with disability, not being afraid to ask questions, and just acknowledging that you don't have all the answers and that you would love their input, I think that's a great way to start. But fear is usually, I think, one of the first and biggest hurdles that people have. Worried they're not going to do it right or they're not going to say it right. So don't be afraid to ask.
Absolutely. I love that message, because like when you take away the fear example, you really just, you're having a conversation.
Exactly.
And at the end, we're all going to learn, and there's going to be areas where I might be lacking, or areas where you might be lacking. But at the end of the day, if you have that acknowledgement, it's going to take the conversation to a much better place. And Sarah, going back to 99 Balloons, because we went quite theoretical.
Sure.
There, is what are some of the plans for 2022 and beyond?
Sure. So I know I've spoken a bit about our respite model, and we are working to grow that globally. But we have a fairly new adult model called Befriend that we are really excited about expanding across the U.S. and globally as well. And what I love about it is that it is so easy. Anyone can implement Befriend. It's simply 8 adults with disabilities, 8 typical adults getting together once a month to hang out. This is not a volunteer opportunity. This is mutual friendship that is happening. And so we love it because it's so easy and anyone can do that. I'm also really excited. We began this year something called Engage. It's our training cohort. And so we are providing cutting edge training to those interested in being more inclusive, those who have disability ministries or nonprofits, and not just teaching them how to create these programs and take them back to where they live, but also developing them as a person and a leader, and taking a look at what their strengths and their perceived weaknesses are, because it's been interesting to see how some of these people may have thought, well, I'm not great at getting volunteers or things like that. But the more we've taken a deep dive into their strengths, we've seen ways that they can use these strengths to be great at recruiting volunteers or talking to donors or whatever they may have thought, oh, I don't know if I'm good at that. So the leadership development piece of that has been a lot of fun, and just to see the mentor relationships that have developed from that as well. So we're looking to continue that and grow that program this fall. And so I'm looking forward to that. Because of COVID, a lot of our global relationships changed or paused. And so we are excited to get back to help our global partners as they work to provide education for children experiencing disability in developing nations. So we're really excited to get to do more in person and with our friends all across the globe this year.
Wow, that is a lot of exciting engagements and programs coming up. And Sarah, just really my last question before I thank you
Sure.
for giving your time and your expertise is, if somebody wants to get involved with 99 Balloons, how can they do so?
Absolutely. It's pretty easy. You'll go to www.99balloons.org, and from there you can look at our programs. If any of them interest you, you click on the link, and it will allow you right then to set up a meeting with either myself or our program manager, where we can talk to you about getting involved and either starting up something where you live or volunteering at a program that already exists. So we would love for you to do that. If you would love to partner with us financially to make this happen, you can also visit the website to do that as well.
Again, Sarah, thank you so much, and we'll make sure that we have all those links
Sure.
and addresses over there. And again, thank you so much for being a partner of ours and for the work that you're doing for Wise Society. And I look forward to our next collaboration.
Yes, thank you so much.